Alright, hello there, welcome to Alpha News from Israel. Currently 6:12 p.m. Eastern Time, May 18, 2026. It is currently one day away from my birthday, whatever it service. Now, this thing is going to be occurring for me, and I'm going to be going through a quick rundown of some of the things I want to first announce before May 19 comes to be, because on May 19, I have lots of calls with the QuitGPT community itself. The very organizing community surrounding QuitGPT will be formed, and I'll be making calls with these people. And basically, because the very owner of QuitGPT just won't appear, they won't appear in time, not in a timely manner. I guess they're very busy with other branches of their selection. I will be the one taking command as captain of the very movement itself of basically 4 million people. And let me remind you that it's 4 million people we're talking about. And these are organizers who organize to thousands and thousands of people. So they're all like kind of their own type of thing. But so now me as I am, I'm gonna first explain why I must make something like this before the day tomorrow. Because tomorrow is gonna be quite chaotic for me. Tomorrow is gonna be lots of calls, meetings, discussions of just me breaking down things for QuitGPT and organizing with the very people themselves. Not like just a group of people. I will genuinely enter a call with thousands of people, hundreds of people at once. Let's be generous. Hundreds of people. Let's be generous. Thousands, hundreds of people. And these people are going to be helping me organize this mass raid. We're going to be trying this mass raid thing that I'm going to tell them to do. And I'm also going to use this effort in order to help promote these other pages and channels along with my own, and basically cementing myself as the very captain of the movement itself, which is millions of people strong. And remind you that the owner is not there, and so he's like, well, who's second in command? Aspen's second in command. They're not appearing, she's not appearing, she's kind of busy too. So I was like, okay, so who's third in command? Me, myself, the very third person who formed the movement and basically aided Aspen and QuitGPT to continue furthering their behavior and their activity. So I'll be participating in a call with these very people tomorrow on May 19th, 2026, which is the day I turned 21 years old, at 7:22 a.m. in an Eastern time. I believe I was born around 7 a.m. on May 19th, so around 7 a.m. I'll be turning 21 years old by that point. And so whenever I break down what I'm going to do next after that, on May 20, it'll be the same thing, but it's giving a little more leeway to those who want to appear at a later hour. So even after I return from like midday to continue those calls, there's still gonna be people waiting in different time zones who want me to call them, right? There's some essential people who have lots of jobs or things to do until like 8 p.m., 11 p.m. And I'll be using that day to do something productive in the meanwhile. And hopefully I'll live stream it just to show people what it's like, because generally people don't believe I have a voice of somebody who used to talk to audiences before. Let me debunk that claim and already tell you that I've talked in front of stages before. I've done stage talks, I've done audience talks, I've talked with essentially huge figures in government, like the Florida government, and I never got to see Joe Biden himself. Unfortunately, I've lost that chance when I think he visited some art institute somewhere, but I missed that chance. He was like too far away, and I wasn't able to afford transportation to get there by Uber, so I lost that one. And we also had the guy who worked at Boeing, and funny enough, the guy who worked at Boeing who visited back then in high school, I should have been able to afford Uber to get over to see if I can visit him and talk to him more, but unfortunately, man, I had a busy schedule, tight schedule, wasn't able to meet up with the dude. So that's gonna be happening May 19th, and I'm gonna be explaining what the fuck I'm wearing. You're gonna go, what avatar is that? That looks hideous. Why you look like that? Okay, first let me explain what this avatar is. So this soon on June 14th on 2026, when this video it's not gonna be released. You know what? There's gonna be a video released for June 14, 2026, and if not, a video will be released later. I'll be trying to compile basically 10 years of my history on this game, but also 10 years of MM7 and 10 years of my other journeys around across wide, like writing down MM7, drawing MM7 for the past over a decade, right? 12 years, 13 years in. This has been a long forward waiting thing I've been waiting for, because in August 2026 I'll be updating that to 14 years. So just how life is. By the time it's 2027 of August, we'll be hitting our 15th anniversary of MM7, right? MM7 will become 15 years old by the time we hit 2027 around August. So that day will be for another day. But for now, we have 10 years of Roblox coming up, and then me turning 21 years old. I guess some people still kind of care about that. I don't really put much attention to the birthday. I even almost forgot that my birthday was tomorrow. I didn't put that into mind. I guess somebody reminded me and said, "Hey, your birthday's tomorrow." And I'm like, "Oh, I forgot that." And then they're like, "Oh, well, here I am. I'll give you this and this and that if you appear." And I'm like, okay, sure, why not? So there's a lot of people who basically don't give a shit if I turn 21 years old, so don't talk to me ever again. And the ones who are even reminding me of that even happening, the birthday tomorrow, I'm just gonna say, okay, thanks for reminding me, but a lot of people don't often celebrate that as much as they want to sex pest girls on the street and break rules and not listen to their teachers, like a lot of different teenagers that I know. There's hundreds of them, I would point out, that do that still, who are now adults now, by the way. They're full-grown adults in their 20s who still don't care. That's also another story for another day. But today we'll be focusing on ChatGPT, those calls, my behavior for May 19th, for May 20, and be celebrating, I guess, when I turn 21. I honestly couldn't care more if I turn 21 years old. But if I'm right, 21 years old is usually the last number you hit before you reach access to everything else. If I'm right, when you're 21, you can access the rest of all these other things that the world has to give you when you're 21 years old. 18 is like the minimum, I guess, and then 21 is like, okay, you hit like the highest number possible to access the rest of the internet, concerts or club areas, or I don't know, dance areas, maybe skateboarding rings, maybe places for basketball or soccer, whatever. I don't know what 21 years old I'm fully lost. I do know about gun control, smoking, alcohol, and all these other things, but I'm not the type to indulge myself in alcohol or smoking or drugs or paraphernalia or going out there to hang out with lousy people who don't know how algebra works, because I should probably not associate myself with people who technically don't even know how algebra works if they're 19 years old and still don't know how to piece together what government is and can't tell me what a social democrat is. So if you can't do that, you probably are not the best shot, and you probably won't get along with me, and you probably most likely need to have knowledge about what you're talking about. So the ones who stayed by me until I was 21 years old, this is a celebration of those who still remain here, who still were talking to me. For like the cadets of mine, of course, the cadets of mine have stayed the longest, and now one of my cadets is the very comms team leader of a translation team that I control. I control an entire translation team for ChatGPT. And I command them, but most of the time I allow them to do their own thing. Hectros got it. He has it. He's young, born for this, absolutely born to be a leader. He learned from me, but then he said, you know what? I learned from you, Viz, and I can finally enact what I learned from you and enact from what I learned myself. And so that's something I want to see more of. And Wiz is not there yet. Still very busy with things. I need to find an Indonesian translator still. We found a German translator, Polish translator, we have a Brazilian translator, and we have a French translator, if I'm right. So we have those currently at the moment. And German is one of them, but yes, basically those. And we need Indonesian very badly. Indonesian and Spanish is essentials in the toolbox towards getting a more stronger force against techno-fascism, because as much as if we compete with each other to see who posts more content about these things, like these very parabellums that we're visiting when constantly talking about data centers, laws, and administrations and government, all these other things require somebody who knows what they're actually talking about. Most people who laugh off and basically think that life is okay, who joke about these things and basically only care about themselves and laugh at everything because they can't understand it. Now, if you're one of those people who are apolitical, you should probably not think that everything's okay and probably use your brain for once and step outside of your comfort zone and look around yourself and see, is everything truly alright, or is it something like you coping? If you're coping, you probably should step out of that circle and start acting, voting, enabling, and start getting out of your comfort zone. Now, that's what I did. I recruited hundreds of people since I have started that thing with ChatGPT themselves. His name is E and me have been communicating, but at the moment he's been busy. Aspen's been busy. Even I got like fully stacked with just a whole bunch of calls and emails that I have to deal with. Most of the calls that I've been in getting myself in with is usually mostly organizing calls, where we organize protests like the ones that you see around Black voters' rights. and Black voters' rights protests, some of those were actually inspired by No Kings, Quit GPT, and 5501. And those are just a few. Indivisible.org is also one of them, where we're basically raiding town halls and getting the attention of our representatives and senators and governors, and basically dragging them over to pay attention to the very people who are demanding that they not do these things that they're doing, which is lots of political finance corruption that should be reported consistently with lots of pressure, because that's how we will win. So, as long as the algorithm continues to be read by most of these billionaires that literally consolidate every piece of social media that they see within their very perimeters of how many billions that they can spend for something, if they have that, we have to put in the same amount of pressure. And that's why I've been posting a lot more recently, and basically recording and making sure that these get posted on different channels. With the deletion of my second channel, which is really wrong, I'm still working on that, I will continue to push on for the returning of that second channel. But in the side of things, we need to work together as a team, and that's why I have May 19 this call, and May 20 calls again, of just giving two people 2 days of my full attention. Even though my birthday is going to happen, probably people are going to step in and change whatever. With those happening, we're still going to form something to make sure that's not just an event that's going on, it's more like a real, fully solidified movement. CringeGPT is not necessarily 2 years old yet, and we need to make sure we hit that mark and still have that same edge, because Mark Ruffalo, the one who acts as Hulk in Avengers, is coming out there to also support us. We have to actually give him the very value of what he is trying to do in supporting our movement as well. So we have to make sure we give that back from the very supporters who give us, who trust us, and think that we're not some corporate entity trying to go portray ourselves as heroes and saviors of the global censorship war that is still ongoing until the year 2026. I started this back in 2024, 2025. I didn't do enough of it in 2024. I clearly didn't announce enough. In 2025, I did finally engage in on that behavior and started posting much more, consistently exposing all of these delicacies that are going around that corporate media and legacy media, corporate/legacy media, are not covering, simply put, and that mostly indies are covering themselves having to. Because if corporate media, legacy media isn't going to be reporting these things, we ourselves as indies have to do it ourselves. And all the ones who are still apolitical to this day and laughing their asses off and not doing anything about their life, I don't think you're still helping. I think you should probably engage with the people who are clearly doing a difference. Not legacy media, as much as legacy media has like a bunch of donors there donating money to make sure they shut up about, real horrible things like all the children that got bombed in Iran or Israel or something, right? Which, by the way, fits to different countries who are still aiding this war. Spotify, I'm looking at you. The war drones you're sending over are not exactly helping your point. And we still have lots of lobbying that we have to deal with as well. Lobbying that's going against Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey is one of the only Republicans that I'll actually point out here and say, okay, he has a brain, right? Representative Okana, and most people would ask me who I would vote for, and I already told people numerous different times, and all the Facebook moms got pissed when I started saying that I would vote for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and they were like, no, you're doing this and this and that, you're wrong and this, and you're a B word, and you're an F word, and you're just like this Indian boy. And they sent me some AI generated images of Donald Trump saying you're wrong, and I'm like, you're not changing my point. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of the very candidates that I actually endorse myself, along with Angie Nixon, which will be running for Florida Senate, that I've been keeping in touch with, that I really need to get the attention of, because at the moment, Angie Nixon will not win this race securely, not safely enough for my fitting. She needs to be ahead by, let's say, 10%. If she's ahead by 10%, we could secure ourselves a victory for a Democratic Florida Senate victory that will give us healthcare, a care for healthcare. She's not for censorship. Hopefully, we're looking into that. I hope, and we're gonna get people to confirm that if she supports censorship or age verification. If she's against age verification, the better. I'll support Angie Nixon further. If she's against age verification, I had to search up on that because I searched on it and I didn't get enough info. So I'm clearly undecided on that one. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has shown that she is anti-censorship. She is against AIPAC. She is not in support of genocide, recognizes that the genocide exists, and she is informed. She is young. She is a democratic individual, and she is closer to being a socialist, a democratic socialist herself. And she is friends with Bernie Sanders, which secures that deal for me. She also knows what she actually talks about lots of the different times. I heard her speeches, I heard what she said in court and in Congress to confirm that she clearly is possibly the best presidential candidate for 2026 in midterms, around 2028 for president. So Why not Gavin Newsom? People would immediately go to, wait, but didn't you endorse Alyssa Slotkin or Gavin Newsom? No, I didn't endorse those two. Gavin Newsom and Alyssa Slotkin have since been pivoting over to wanting to run for president. People would say that they are some of the candidates that will be running. And funnily enough, when you look into the iPad Tracker website, you can find that most of the presidential candidates often have iPad money already. So Gavin Newsom doesn't take money from iPad, but has certainly recently failed to address the genocide in Israel and in Iran. So there's just a whole bunch of things that are going wrong with that. And he is also very hesitant over taxing the billionaires and the rich in his very state. So you're not getting my vote anytime soon, Gavin Newsom. You're out of the game. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would be the one who would be supporting a billionaire's tax, because literally in of itself, she already worked around Zoran Mamdani and Bernie Sanders, which are the pinnacle of what you need to have and get from a governor, senator, mayor, regardless of where they are and who they are. Ro Khanna is another good one, but something I really want to address for Ro Khanna is Ro Khanna unfortunately needs to have somebody explain to him that these age verification bills and these kid safety bills are not cutting it for me. Look, Ro Khanna himself was one of the co-sponsors behind some of these internet surveillance bills that I've already talked about on this channel for numerous months on end, over a year, alright, over a year. I could literally pull up a clip from any video I posted within the past 4 months, 6 months, 8 months that showed how extremely urgent and essential that every candidate that you vote for is not with internet surveillance bills. They could be doing laws like saying giving you free healthcare, but they could also be supporting internet surveillance bills where they take your information, ask for your ID, birth certificates, and not only is this a violation of your privacy, this also affects voting polls. When voting polls are done, usually often they don't ask for this type of information, but whenever the government actually has your ID in their database, like Persona for example, Persona is one of those very companies that processes such information, and when they have that information, they can give it to the government, which, by the way, Palantir already has so much dominance over government functions of society in the United States itself. Same for Oracle. Oracle already owns most of TikTok and most social medias and owns many ownerships over different companies that they bought out in order to get to where they were already. Political finance is an issue, but it's also social media consolidation, because if they take over most of the social medias that people watch, what you only see is Republican content, which is why you always see new Republicans still being born from the nowhere, right? They're being born from nowhere. Why? Because there's always billions of people on this planet, and there's hundreds of millions of people out there for you to manipulate, to trick, and to fool. It's easy. You have AI, you have political finance, you have lobbying, you have funding, you have propaganda. This is a thing that exists. As much as the United States doesn't want to admit, oh, we have propaganda, yes, we do. In Florida, you want to know the confidence rate of this state of mine. Let's give you an example. Florida has a confidence in their jobs economy that's still at 50% under Ron DeSantis' administration and his handling of the jobs market. Jobs are at unemployment rate at the moment is over 6% in most places around Florida, meaning there's a 6% chance you'll talk to somebody literally on the street, or somebody you meet, or somebody you last talked to who doesn't have a job because they can't find one. 300 applications later, still can't find one. I'm one of those examples. There's already thousands of people who I know who don't have jobs in Florida. And it's not a fucking joke. I want to tell that to people who still understand. There's legitimately a bunch of Latin voters out there who are still voting Republican. Yes, there is a 57% population of them still voting Republican in Florida, not voting for Angie Nixon. Angie Nixon is only winning by -1%. That doesn't look like winning. That doesn't look like confidence in the Democratic Party yet, right? Republicans essentially need to make a fear of voting for Democrats. There are many more Democrats running for president than actual Republicans running for president. Why? Where am I getting this from? At the moment, there is currently more than 10 Democrats running for president, possibly in 2028. And there's only 2 confident Republicans besides J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio who will be running for president in 2028. This is a very fact. You can find this on the internet. Most people who continue to laugh their ass off and do nothing about it don't know what I'm talking about. It is essential that we vote Democrat. Here's why you should be confident in that. Alright. I'm not going to be here and tell everybody that every Democrat's perfect. I just told you that most of you, funny enough, Democrats take more money from lobbying for the tech sector, which is why you always see Democrats so nervous about tech, right? They're especially lobbied in the tech sector. Lots of older Democrats, for example. Why? This is why you always see mainly older Democrats voting for these kid safety bills that they say is for the kids, which is not. It's just internet surveillance. For example, if I must explain how ID verification is such a bad thing, I can actually lay down exactly why that's a bad thing. For example, I'm going to make a video on this separately because there was an article I would love to read on for a separate video in of itself. ID verification is very dangerous for a whole number of reasons that not necessarily related to keeping children safe from horrible things on the internet. It's a stupid model that's been used on UK since 2024 and Brazil since 2023. Brazil has been trying to get this out since 2023. United Kingdom has been trying to get this out since 2024. COSTA has been around since the 2010s. COPPA has been around since the 2000s. So we're not exactly out of touch with that. ID verification is dangerous for numerous reasons. Let me explain why. When you verify with your ID, you're entrusting that a data processor, not a data broker, process your information and keep it deleted. You use that to verify, you're good to go and you get in, right? You access whatever site you're on, regardless if it's for children, adults, or teenagers, whatever age rating. Game, social media, video app, movie app, whatever. That ID of yours will go to a database around in a data center around in the United States or in a different country. That's where it often does. Those pieces of data get stored in this huge storage base of every other people's IDs that are sent into the database. Their back and front sides are usually state IDs, driver's license, or a government ID that's issued to a user who verifies with their ID. You would often think, okay, but it's stored safely in those places. There's no way somebody could break into such database and my data is safe, right? You would assume that, but that's not exactly what's going to happen. So when your IDs are usually kept in there, you're assuming that that company who stores your information will keep your information safe. Okay, let's get this into a more easier to understand visual if you want to know. Let's say this company has nobody who works in tech. They have your information and the data processor is there. You think that that data processor is the middleman who will take care of the security part, and the company will then gather that information and say, oh, we know what customers we want now. You think that's how they get demographic data. Wrong. So when that company gets hacked or invaded or a DDoS attack and people's information randomly gets leaked, which always happens. There's a photo of that. There's many reports of all the data leaks that happened in 2025. Same for 2026. It will happen in 2027. When that data is leaked, your ID is out there. Your ID. Your face, your name, your address, your birth date, your code, the state code number, your FL code, whatever state code number, ID code number, government issued license, ID, scanned QR code. That right there, that's behind it. It's going to be there. Different IDs from different states have different looks. Often, regardless of how much you pay for ID, your ID is out there. What people can use that for is exactly the most dangerous part of what I'm talking about. When they have your ID, because every platform on the internet is now asking for ID, they'll use your stolen ID from the dark net, which, by the way, myself have seen the dark web myself already. I've already been in the dark web. I've seen all sorts of horrible imagery myself. So when they have your ID, guess what? Your ID is out there forever. You can't just go, I'm just going to pay for a new ID. No, you're not. Different ID prices vary by state and country. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a retard. You're not going to afford one. You keep buying a new one, they'll find you. They already have your face. AI face recognition exists. Your name is already publicly out there. By the time they have your ID, they have your full legal name, They already know how old you are. They already have your QR code for your previous ID. They already have your state code, and they already know your address. Because funny enough, most IDs have the address. So even if you buy a new ID after, don't be a stupid asshole and think you're safe. That's retarded. They'll already know where you live. They already have your face, your name. They could falsify that ID, sell it to a data broker, and replace you and literally act as you somewhere else on the internet. Steal your emails, steal your passwords, steal your 2G login code, and even go past by the two-step verification code system because they need that ID to do that. So even when you try to think of those other ways, they also have your phone number. Yes, your phone number will also be associated with it because if they can break into your email and password, they'll just find your number. Your number just comes along naturally right after your ID's gained. So, and now, just so y'all know, that's why IDs are dangerous, because then when it's thousands of people's IDs being leaked, we already had this happen with Discord when 70,000 IDs were leaked over to the internet. When 70,000 IDs were leaked over to the internet, a lot of people genuinely were like, oh shoot, I'm screwed. They couldn't do anything about it. They weren't safe. Their information was leaked, their accounts got hacked, their Bank of America got hacked, they got snooped, right? There's lots of apps where if they had not, that's like funny, it's funny enough. If apps had not been asking for your ID in the first place, you would have never had these data breaches in the first place. Another is that whenever parents basically do, and by the way, I'm coming for the parents as well, because the government shouldn't be dictating these types of steps and processes behind the very such cybersecurity concerns that have been pointing out throughout this video. You parents are also at fault as well, because then whenever sites ask for IDs and you obligate yourself to just verify for your child who's supposed to be a minor who shouldn't be touching such disgusting and discerning websites on the internet, when you just put in your ID and say, it's okay, I'll just do it for you, you're just exposing your child to the same very dangers. Once they have the ID, it's collected, your child's gonna click a bunch of cookies, malware is gonna get into the device, your child is not safe, less safer than earlier before. And it's even worse for adult sites as well. Adult sites who then have to do mandatory ID verification checks are also in danger. Here's why. So, this is going to be for a separate video, but I'm going to address adult sites more properly for another video. But in a short story with how I explained it and pieced it together there, you start to notice why I'm always working for ChatGPT. There's nothing that will change my mind that will impede on me working for ChatGPT. There is nothing that's going to change my mind in trying to propel and propagate the Moteness movement out there, because at the moment, nobody else is going to show the next extreme. If fascism is an extreme that has already been visited, if Trumpism is another extreme that has been visited, it has been invented since, I'll have to do something to invent and literally propel that backwards in of itself. So to propel an extreme like that, you need to make another extreme, which is Motenism itself, which is why I straight up invented Motenism. There are literal people who will now know about Motenism tomorrow. This is a thing that we should be doing, because democracy would be such a great thing, but there isn't a great thing about democracy when it's this fragile, especially in an illiberal system of society that runs on oligarchic efforts. Just as we have a technocratic uprising within the government from the 1% of people who literally buy and own most of the country itself and how much they pay. That many people, a very small group, control this very country, and myself, I'm not going to let that happen and continue further on. There's many reasons for me to continue doing so, and I'd rather die doing what I'm doing here than to suck up to a corporation and sell my soul and laugh about it and stay behind bars and, literally joke and be a bastard about it behind the scenes. I'm not going to be a bitch and start laughing at people online for caring about the government and being political. I'm not going to be out there laughing at people's faces and calling them disease names and mental illnesses because I don't know what they're actually talking about. And I'm not going to be the one going around bitching on the internet, going on the comment sections, and doing nothing about my surroundings. I actually have to interact with my surroundings in order to find that there is a difference possible. To understand the pathway that I must walk, I must actually go to it. I have to genuinely do action on it. And I have, and I've done it with QuitGPT, and I probably will continue to do so. So, with how it has been these past few days, leading to May 19th, I'm trying to do as much as possible within the span of 1 year, which, by the way, once 2027 comes to be a thing, 2027 will be some of my busiest years ever. There's going to be so much happening in 2027 because there's so many projects that I have to actually attend to that I've been postponed since 2024. In 2024, there was numerous projects that I wanted to finish that I wasn't able to finish in 2025 because of these very landmine events, these landmarks that are appearing all over the place that not only consequentially change the direction of where I'm supposed to be going, which now basically puts me on a side journey saying that I can't engage on what I want to do passionately, and so I have to now do this other thing because nobody else is putting their mind to it, and so they need another brain for it. And I'll be gladly the brain who will be doing the brainstorming and doing all the calls necessary to get more people inspired and motivated to continue doing action on their own without somebody to be codependent on, which I should see more of. And there's a lot of people out there who I point out who are clearly codependent of ridiculing people and laughing at them and laughing their asses off and doing nothing. There's a lot of people who I remember calling out in different meetings, calls, messages throughout 2025. A lot of interactions outside as well. So there's already what is it called again? There was a MAGA party that went around by the park 1 mile away from where I was. There was one over very far away. And these people are saying this, why are you playing Fuck Ice, the song Fuck Ice out in the public? And I'm like, to get out awareness. And they're like, that's very dangerous to do that in a Republican state, kid. And they called me a kid. They thought I was like 15, but I was like, I said, no, I'm 20. Which is kind of funny. People still think I'm like 15 whenever I cut the hair and I, shave off all this facial hair. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I'd be able to explain. So the next video, we're going to be explaining Utah right now at the moment. Utah is like, if I'm right, they were trying to build a data center, but they were also trying to do a VPN ban, which, by the way, a VPN ban is just not viable. It's just logically not possible with the technical capabilities of a VPN and what it is, because in order to make a business off of VPN, to make a business off VPN is not only just unconstitutional and violation of privacy and freedom rights, it's just not viable. You can't enforce a VPN ban. It's impossible, especially when you try to ban a VPN. You are trying to say that a VPN company shouldn't form in the first place. You can't just do that. That's also impeding on the construction of a company in of itself. And so the freedom to business is now also in violation. Because if you can't allow even a business to spawn for VPNs, then there's a problem constitutionally. So it's 6:45 p.m. Eastern time. That's my 32 minutes here. That's my little chip in for the moment here, giving you a piece of information, and I'll update you on the next things for what to do tomorrow on May 19th and May 20th when we get into full-on calls tomorrow with me as the captain of the QuitGPT movement, and Hectros himself, if he ever is able to appear, and all these other organizers who feel like they need to have some reason to go out there and do so. That'll be it. Make it iconic. G-Bay.